Hey everybody, Rob here at etrailer.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the CURT Class 3 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2020 GMC Terrain. Now here's what our hitch is going to look like once we have it installed. I think it has a pretty clean appearance, and that's because most of the hitch is actually going to be hidden behind the bumper, and the main thing we see is the receiver tube sticking out. Now it is a Class 3 hitch, which means it's going to give us that 2" by 2" receiver tube opening and really have the widest variety of options for accessories that we can put in there. Obviously we can put a drawbar in there and tow a trailer. Maybe we want to just take a bike ride with some friends. We could put a bike rack in there, take some bikes with us. Or if we're taking a trip, we could put a cargo carrier in the back so we can move some of the gear on the inside to the outside to make more room for passengers and pets. Now the hitch is going to accept a standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now these are not going to come with the hitch, but you can find them here at etrailer.com, along with some locking devices and anti-rattle devices to keep your accessories secure and to cut down on the annoying rattling sound when we're going down the road. Now if you are going to be doing any kind of towing, you need a spot to hook up your safety chains. And here we have a loop style welded to the bottom of the receiver tube. And most normal size hooks will have no problem getting them hooked on or taking them off. And even with those large oversized hooks, we still have plenty of room to get them hooked on and not have to worry about any kind of interference. Now if you're looking at a hitch, obviously you have something in mind that you want to use it for, so it's important to know that it can handle the task that we put it to. So as far as the weight capacity goes, our hitch is going to have a 675-pound tongue weight. That's going to be the maximum downward force at the end of the receiver tube. Now it's actually quite a bit. With that, we'll be able to carry 4, maybe 5, 6 bikes with us. And at the same time, if you're using it for a cargo carrier, we're really going to be able to maximize the carrying capacity of those really large carriers. Now, at the same time, our hitch is going to have a 4,500-pound gross trailer weight rating. That's how much the hitch can pull, but that does include the trailer and the load that we have on it. Now, it is also designed to work with weight distribution systems, and the tongue weight and the gross trailer weight are going to stay the same. But with all those numbers in mind, you do want to double check your Terrain's owner's manual, because those are the ratings for the hitch, and we do not want to exceed the ratings for our car. I'd like to give you a few measurements, and these are going to help you whenever you're looking for accessories for your new hitch. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is right about 5.5 inches. Now that measurement is going to help you when you're looking at folding accessories to make sure you have enough room to put them in the upright stored position and not make contact with the rear bumper. From the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening is going to be right about 12.5 inches. Now at that height, I definitely recommend a bike rack or a cargo carrier with a raised shank so we get a little bit more ground clearance out of it. But at the same time, that measurement is also going to help you when you're looking for a ball mount so you can find the appropriate rise or drop to match your trailer. But now that we've seen what our hitch looks like and gone over some of the features, let's go through the installation process together. To begin our installation, we want to come to the very back of our Terrain. And at the bottom of the bumper here, we're going to have 2 fasteners. We need to pull those out. So we'll grab a T15 Torx bit and pull both of those screws out. Now we do want to hold on to these because these are going to be reinstalled. At this point, we're going to get ready to lower the exhaust down. However, we want to make sure that it's supported and it doesn't come down too far. So I'm going to put up a support strap. But you can also use a jack stand or really whatever you have just to not allow the exhaust to come down too far. Let's find this point right here. I'm just going to tighten up the strap so that when we do lower it, it can't go down too far. Now on the back of the bumper, on each side of the muffler, we're going to find our hanger. And it's actually attached to the frame here. We're going to have 2 bolts that are coming through going towards the front. We need to take them out from the back side. Now there's a decent amount of room in here, but you can use a 15mm wrench, socket. I'm going to be using a ratcheting wrench just so I have a little bit more clearance. And we're going to want to pull both of those bolts out. So once you have both bolts pulled out, we're going to grab that plastic piece of the hanger. Kind of want to lift upwards and then pull towards the back of the Terrain. There's a little notch that's going to be holding it in place. Once you have it free of the notch, we can just let it rest down here out of the way. We'll move to the other side and remove the 2 bolts on the other hanger. Now we're also going to have a hanger right where the center of the rear axle would be, or right here at the back. Now this isn't going to be bolted on, it's just an isolator, rubber isolator attached to the hangers. So to get this one off, I'm just going to spray some lubricant on there. Just makes it easier for that rubber isolator to slide. I'm just going to take a pry bar and use the hanger itself to kind of pry against. Sometimes it's a little awkward to get the right angle in there. But once we have it slid off, you can see where that support strap is really going to help out, preventing that exhaust from coming down too far. Now to make sure we have plenty of room, I'm going to loosen the strap up just a little bit, just enough so it can come down, and then I'm going to come to the back of the fascia here, just kind of pull outward a little bit, and that'll allow us to get that hanger to the outside. Give us a little bit more working room underneath here, and we don't have to worry about fighting the hangers. Now we're over here on the driver's side frame rail, and if we look at the very bottom of it, we're going to find several holes. Now the three smaller holes are going to be our mounting locations. One that's just right before the rear axle here. We'll have another one on the other side of this large hole, and then one at the very back of the bumper. Now those are going to be the mounting locations, and the large hole is going to be our access hole to get the hardware in place. We're going to need to get our carriage bolts as well as some spacer blocks into the frame, but you'll notice that it's just slightly too small to get the hardware in place. So we need to enlarge this hole just a little bit. Now you can use a file, a rotary tool, just about whatever you have. You just want to take away just enough material so that those pieces of hardware can get in there. I'm going to use a step bit, and I'm just going to, again, just take away just enough material that it's going to have my hardware go in. So I'm just going to periodically stop and check. Now, although it's only a little bit of metal, it's never a good idea to leave exposed metal on your vehicle. So I'm going to come back with some paint, and I'm just going to paint all the edges here, hopefully preventing any kind of rust or corrosion from building up. But now that we have this access hole opened, we're going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. Now to get our hardware in place, we want to grab one of our pull wires, and we'll take the coiled end, and we want to start at the furthest hole from the access hole. That way once we get everything in, we're not fighting the rest of the hardware. So what I like to do is kind of estimate how far away my pull wire is from that hole. Then just put a small bend in it. We'll take the coiled end. We're going to feed it into that hole and towards the access hole. Now I got real lucky here and the pull wire just popped right out. You may need to put your finger in there and help guide it, but be very mindful that there may be some sharp edges since we just opened this hole up. We'll grab one of our spacer blocks. I'm going to feed it over the pull wire through it. I'm going to push it into the frame. Then we can grab one of our carriage bolts. We'll thread it onto the end of the pull wire. Push that into the frame. Then we want to pull on the tail until we can get the pull wire to come through that block and have the bolt come down through it. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. Just kind of need to wiggle it, play with it until that bolt drops down through the block and through the frame rail. Now it's going to be the same combination of hardware and procedure to put the rest of our hardware in place. Now at this point, I suggest getting an extra set of hands so we can help lift our hitch up. We want to go over the exhaust, and we're going to pull our pull wires down through the corresponding holes in the hitch. Once we get them all through, we can lift it up. Make sure they all line up. The bolts are coming down through the hitch. Then we want to remove at least one pull wire on each side. We can take a flange nut and secure the hitch down. Now again, I suggest getting at least one on each side. That way the hitch will hold itself up and we can put the rest of the hardware in place. And each one of the bolts is going to get a flange nut. And once all the hardware is in place, we'll come back with a 3/4 inch socket and tighten it all out. Then we can come back with a torque wrench and torque all the hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. We'll go back and repeat that for all the remaining hardware. Now we can lift the exhaust back into position. What I like to do is I'll pull on the fascia a little bit just to get that hanger back on the inside. I'll do that on both sides. And then I'm going to come back to that strap, kind of lift up and tighten it up so it's a little bit higher and it's not pulling down so hard on the fascia here. Then we can take the exhaust hanger, we'll line it up with that tab that we slid it off of earlier. Make sure the holes line up. Then we can just put the hardware back in place. And then for that hanger that's at the rear axle, I like to spray a little bit more lubricant on the hanger and the isolator. It just makes it a little bit easier to slide back in place. And then we can remove the support strap that we had from earlier. And then finally we can put those screws back at the bottom of the fascia. Once you have the last screw in place, that'll finish up your installation and your look at the CURT Class 3 custom fit trailer hitch receiver on our 2020 GMC Terrain.